Good evening, Mr. Bond fans. After about a year or so of chaining nothing but John Gardner books, I decided that I needed to take a little break from my James Bond continuation novel journey, and I decided to read a couple of palate cleansers before diving into the Raymond Benson era. Cleanser 1 was Herman Melville's Moby Dick, so be sure to follow my spin-off whaling YouTube channel if you want to hear my thoughts on that. And for cleanser number 2, with this being the 50th anniversary of the film version of Live and Let Die, I figured it'd be very appropriate to delve into Roger Moore's The 007 Diaries, which publisher, the History Press, has very recently reissued in this quite magnificent fine press edition. I'm going to talk about this latest edition of the book in more detail, but first I just want to give a bit of an overview of what the 007 Diaries are, because as far as I'm concerned, it's something wholly unique when it comes to James Bond media. Originally published in 1973 as a promotional tie-in to the then upcoming Live and Let Die, Roger Moore agreed to keep a day-by-day diary of the film's production, and it's those writings that make up the book's content. It's an incredible and very personal insight into what the experience of becoming James Bond was for Roger Moore, and what the shooting process was like for him. If you've read any other of Sir Roger's books, you'll be used to his candid and very down-to-earth writing style, and this is no different. The man was just effortlessly witty and charming, and an absolute goldmine of anecdotes and stories. The book isn't just covering the technical aspects of the shoot, his acting process and such. He talks about what he did on his days off too, and just hanging out with his co-stars and relaying relevant stories from his past and such. I've always loved how down-to-earth and relatable Moore is as a narrator and a storyteller. I can't think of many movie stars that capture those same qualities as sincerely and honestly as Roger Moore did. I was also quite surprised at how non-promo hoary the book's content was. Like, this exists as a promotional tie-in to a film, and yet it reads so candidly and, dare I say, even quite warts and all in some places that I can't imagine PR teams of today would be particularly enthusiastic about it. Moore will relay stories about disagreements on the set between Yaphet Kotto and director Guy Hamilton, for example, and Harry Saltzman's short temper gets brought up in quite a few places. There's a few unflattering stories about him in here, but it's all told in good humour. It's stuff that I wouldn't really imagine getting through today, like if, you know, the equivalent would, you know, Daniel Craig keeping production diaries during No Time to Die. Moore finds a perfect balance of candour without ever feeling sensational or blown out of the water or anything like that. Knowing what I know of Roger and having seen and read, you know, his interviews and in other books, like, this is just him. This isn't a calculated effort on his part. It's just his honest-to-goodness writing style, and it's a joy to be taken on this day-by-day journey through the production of this very excellent Bond film with him. I'll talk about some of my favourite bits in just a bit, but I just want to talk about this very latest release of the book first, because I do think that the History Press have done Bond fans a really great service by, well, first of all, bringing this book back into stores in 2018, and this new fine press edition was made to coincide with the film's 50th anniversary, and it's just really quite wonderful seeing this celebration of the film come to fruition. The release is strictly limited to 350 copies, and it includes a new foreword by Miss Caruso herself, Madeline Smith, along with the previous foreword by David Hedison. This is a really beautiful, high-end production, and I just adore this cover art. It's from Mark Levy. It's obviously merging Roger Moore's Bond with Geoffrey Holder's Baron Samedi, creating a kind of heaven and hell vibe, which is really cool, and I just love the skulls, the snakes, the crocs, the flames. It all feels totally in keeping with the film. As a lovely little bonus too, at the front of the book you'll find this little envelope which contains a signed still from Madeline Smith, as well as a reproduction of 2 of the tarot cards featured in the film, the Fool and, of course, the Lovers. The fact that the envelope inlay has these crocs and snakes on it too to match with the book's design speaks to the care and attention that went into making this really special thing. It may seem like a small thing, but I just love these little attentions to detail. I also just really love that this book is receiving such a special bespoke release. I'm collecting the Folio Society editions of the Ian Fleming novels because I love those books, and I love having what I would say are very high-end editions of them on my shelf. Yes, I have tatty paperbacks that I can throw in my rucksack for reading on my commute and on the go, but I love having something that feels a bit more special on my shelf, something that I will read through and admire at home rather than on the go, something that sits as a monument, really. I've come to expect that kind of care and attention for the Flemings, but I've read a lot of Bond continuation novels, as well as just general fiction books about the making of the films and such, and you really don't expect, like, those books to have the same levels of care and attention put into keeping them alive and keeping them special, and I'm just a bit in awe, quite frankly, as well as terribly happy that Roger Moore's The 007 Diaries has received such a AAA release. And I hope it sets a precedent for more like this. Now might well be the time for me to start my campaign to get the Christopher Wood novelizations of Moonraker and The Spy Who Loved Me back in print, damn it. So I just want to call out a few moments that were real highlights of the book for me. There's a few passages dedicated to Moore discussing a wedding that took place during the film's production, and Roger Moore was the best man, and the book includes a photo, a scan of the mock call sheet that the production put together, which has some sort of interesting, funny little jokes on it, like calling for a dialogue coach to rehearse groom on lines, scriptwriter, speeches to be delivered by 4 p.m, then plasterer's wedding cake. There's a running gag throughout the book about, like, journalists just constantly being invited to the set for Roger to have to give interviews, and they're always asking him the same question, specifically, how is your Bond going to be different from Sean's, and his responses to some of those questions are pretty funny. His penchant for practical joking is also detailed in a few places, and I really like, this is one entry that just the very start of it made me laugh aloud on my commute when I was reading this. This is the start of B-Day 60, that means Bond Day 60, the 60th day of playing James Bond, and it starts like this. B-Day 60, a slow day with nothing much to do but play practical jokes on Yaphet Kotto. He does have some very nice things to say about his co-stars as well, he's not just always playing practical jokes on them. These were a couple of moments that stuck out to me as being especially lovely. So this entry is relating to, it's the scene where Mr. Big is confronting James Bond about whether or not he slept with Solitaire. Inevitably, a scene of this length is carried by one actor, and in this case, it was Yaphet. My part only called for the odd interjection. For me, this is worse, because when the scene is going well, I sit and sweat, hoping I won't blow it when it comes to my line. Yaphet was magnificent, pulling all sorts of tricks out of his bag that he hadn't shown in rehearsal, and I was so open-mouthed at his performance that I did what I dreaded I would do, and blew my tagline. And then I thought this was quite sweet. This is what Moore has to say about working with Julius Harris, who of course plays Teehee in the film. Saying goodbye to fellow actors is always a sad moment. If I had to pick a favourite on this picture, it would be Julius Harris, both as a marvellous human being and as a brilliant character actor. When I do a scene with him and I see the rushes, I find it hard to believe that this evil, vicious character with rolling eyes and a maniacal titter is really our gentle Julius. Overall, I had an absolute blast with Roger Moore's The 007 Diaries, and I just came out of it wishing that we had one of these for each of Moore's Bond films. It's just wonderfully funny, candid, and a very detailed look at the behind the scenes from the perspective of the leading man, like playing James Bond, and that is just such a marvellous thing to have. It's a marvellous document to have. It's literally a day-by-day account of what shooting was like for the lead actor in his first Bond film, and I can't imagine we'll ever get anything like this again from a leading Bond actor. The History Press have done Bond fans a really great service by not only keeping this in print, but by producing what feels like a real, like, proper celebration of the 50th anniversary of this thing with this fine press edition. It serves as a really beautiful tribute to both the film and its lead actor, and this is something that I'm going to be very proud of displaying on my bookshelves for years to come. Just an absolutely stunning release. Please do let me know your own thoughts on Roger Moore's The 007 Diaries in the comment section below. I'll also be leaving a link to the History Press website where you can check out more details on that fine press edition if you care to do so. Also below there's a subscribe button and the Mrs. Bell notification button, so be sure to click both of those to stay super up to date on future video uploads. There's also links to a variety of my social media pages, and with all that being said, and until next time Bond fans, so long for now.